Good afternoon, everyone. How are you all doing? Thank you. Well, my name is Zoe. I am a product manager at Google on the Flutter team. I'm very, very honored to be here to talk about how you can use Flutter to build a multi-platform game. And with me, I also have Andrew, my colleague here. Andrew, would you like to do a quick intro?
Yeah, sure. Hey, everybody. I'm Andrew from the developer relations team for Dart and Flutter, and thanks for coming out today. Looking forward to showing you some code.
Well, if this is the first time you're hearing about Flutter, you may be wondering, like, what is Flutter? Or if you have heard about Flutter in the context of app development, you might be wondering, why is Flutter at GDC? Actually, let's just do a quick show of hands. Like, who here has heard about Flutter before? OK, great. OK, much better than I expected. That's awesome. So just real quick, for those of you who probably haven't heard much about Flutter, Flutter is Google's open source framework for building beautiful multi-platform apps and games. And we've been around since 2016. Like, initially, we started as an application framework, but over the past few years, we're just seeing more and more developers using us to create games. So that's why we're here, right? Actually, in the last 12 months, more than 15,000 new mobile games actually launched using Flutter. And then the games built in Flutter are not small games. We're talking about the Trivia Crack, 4 Picks 1 Word, Word Search Explorer. Some of them actually have 500 million downloads across the globe. So we want to be here to tell you more about Flutter, and we want to spread the word out and let people know, hey, you can actually use Flutter to create games. And also, we want to share what kind of resources we can already provide to you for free in the Flutter ecosystem. And later in the demo time, Andrew will show you some code and give you a better understanding how you can use Flutter to get started. OK, let's get started. Well, like I said earlier, Flutter is an open source multi-platform UI framework. But what does that mean? Traditionally, when you start developing an app or game, you often have to ask yourself, where do I want my UI to run? Which actually leads to the next question. Should I hire mobile developers or web developers or desktop developers? But over the past few years, we've just noticed an explosion in device form factors, everything from wearables to connected TVs, or even IoT devices like refrigerators. And we've heard from our customers, whether they're a startup or enterprise customer, that it is indeed a struggle to keep up with all these different form factors. But the potential is just too big to ignore. So what they end up doing is just building the same UI over and over and over again for all these different platforms. So that's where Flutter comes in. With Flutter, you can write your code just once in one single codebase, and Flutter will take care of deploying the same experience on all those platforms and devices you care about. So instead of asking yourself, where do I want my UI to run? With Flutter, you ask yourself, what kind of experience I want to build? So that's what we meant when we outlined the vision for Flutter, Google's portable UI framework for building beautiful multi-platform UI wherever you want to paint a pixel on the screen. And that vision is really built on 5 core pillars. And let's double-click into each one of these a bit further. First, Flutter is fast. In fact, Flutter code is actually compiled to native machine code. So your finished application or game doesn't go through a virtual machine or a JavaScript interpreter. Flutter provides 60 FPS performance or 120 FPS performance on capable devices. Next, productivity is one of the main reasons why developers love Flutter. And we have a revolutionary capability, which we're going to show you later, called hot reload. This allows developers and designers to iterate their apps and games in real time. So basically, if you want to change some code in the UI in the app, you will see that changes reflected immediately within a second. And you don't have to restart the app or get back to where the screen you were on before. Hot reload really transformed the way people build apps or games. And that's why it's Flutter's developers' favorite feature. Later in the demo, Andrew actually will show you how hot reload can significantly improve your productivity. Next, let's talk about beauty. Flutter provides a rich palette of tools that give you control on every pixel on the screen, so you can bring your designer's vision to life. Next, Flutter is open. Flutter itself is open source, so open for contributions, open for extensibility. Every line of code is available for you to read, fork, extend, and amend. You don't have to buy expensive licenses to use Flutter. Everything is licensed freely under permissive open source license. And that openness also extends to the community. There are already more than 40,000 plugins available for your use case, and the vast majority of them are open to you for free. Last but not least, Flutter is portable, and that is the core to our vision. Whenever you develop applications or games, you don't have to worry about which platform you start with. But instead, you can focus on how to create the best experience for your users, no matter where they play your game. And then the secret sauce behind the thing is called Dart. Dart is the programming language behind the scene that allows us to provide such a portable, productive, and approachable framework for our developers. If you're not familiar with Dart, that's not a problem. If you happen to know any other programming languages like Java or C#, you will learn Dart in no time. And let's take a look at how Flutter actually works. So internally, Flutter consists of a framework built with Dart and a rendering engine built mostly in C++. Because everything in the top region is Dart, you get a complete stack trace for better debugging. And you can also access and change everything in all the levels of the framework if you want to have full customizability. Flutter draws every pixel, every frame, so you have the full control. It works just like a game engine. And over the past few years, Flutter has become the most popular multi-platform UI framework, as measured by analysts like /Data. In 2019, LinkedIn noted that Flutter is the fastest growing skill among software engineers. And Fast Company even listed Flutter and Dart as one of the 14 most important design ideas of the decade. So as of now, millions of developers have used the Flutter, and collectively, they have built and released over 1 million apps and games to the Google Play Store and Apple App Store. So I hope you're excited about Flutter at this point, but you may be wondering, can Flutter handle the scale and complexity of real-world applications and games? Well, Flutter is actually already powering apps and games for some of the biggest companies in the world. So for example, Google is using Flutter in more than 30 applications. Google Earth recently launched their mobile apps and web apps using Flutter. Alibaba, one of the largest e-commerce giants globally, uses Flutter to create smooth shopping experience. Actually, they use Flutter in more than 30 applications too. Even Toyota trusts Flutter to enhance their in-car infotainment experience, bringing the next level interface right into their vehicles. And I couldn't name all of them, but tens of other thousands of companies of all sizes and industries across the world rely on Flutter to help them deliver a beautiful and unified experience across different platforms. So that's a high-level overview of Flutter, but let's talk a little bit more specifically about the value that Flutter can actually bring to the game development. We first noticed that PUBG Mobile started using Flutter for their non-gaming UI. Their core game is built in a traditional game engine, but the menus, the community features are all built in Flutter. And they add that Flutter module to their existing game, and this approach actually helped them increase productivity by 80%. And later, we just noticed more and more developers using Flutter for their entire games. So for example, many interface-based or turn-based casual games, Flutter can be a perfect fit. For example, Lodem, the game company behind the all-time popular word puzzle 4 Picks 1 Word, rewrote their entire game in Flutter. Because Flutter allowed them to create more game content in less time, the 4 Pick 1 Word game actually saw users spending 40% more time in the game, which brought in 50% more revenue per session. Also, Flame, a community-driven open-source game engine built on top of Flutter, has also been steadily growing both its contributors and also users. So about 2 years ago, we actually took the chance to interview some developers who have successfully built mobile games using Flutter, and we asked them, what do you like about Flutter? And their answers revealed several themes. First, Flutter is very easy to learn and very easy to use. And second, Flutter games load very fast and are generally very performant, even on budget-friendly devices or in browsers. So your game's bundle size can also be smaller when you use Flutter because the Flutter engine only adds about like a few megabytes to your game. Especially for casual game, you probably find a lot of the libraries provided by traditional game engine are not necessary for your use case. So Flutter's small engine size could be a huge plus here. And then the third and the fourth reasons are about open source, no licensing fee, and high productivity, which I've already covered earlier. So those are some of the compelling reasons about why Flutter can be a great fit for game development. But we also know that game developers always want more resources and more support from us, which is why 2 years ago we launched something called Flutter Casual Games Toolkit. It is a collection of tools, templates, resources, and integration with common game-related services to make game developers even more productive with Flutter. After the launch, Flutter popularity for game developers have grown exponentially over the past 2 years. And we've noticed a 3x growth in market share for new games published to the stores. And some games, like I said, have 500 million users across the world. OK, I think I've done enough talking, and let's move on to your favorite part, which is the coding piece. So Andrew is going to show you how you can use some of the resources from Casual Games Toolkit to build your first Flutter game. Thank you.
Thank you, Zoe, and hello, everybody. Let's see if I can use the clicker correctly. So I'm going to show you a couple of the templates that are included in the Casual Games Toolkit. This is one of them. This is the card game template. It's just a very simple card game that we can use to build some things into it, like sound and ads and settings and things that you would normally see in a game. And the other one uses Flame. Flame is an open source project for games that use a game loop. The card game you just saw does not need a traditional game loop. Flame, though, provides one for folks who want an experience like this one. This is an endless runner, which is another template that's included in the Flutter Casual Games Toolkit. And it's built using the Flame engine, which is a package for Flutter. It's built by the community, but in partnership with the team. And we're going to take a little look at it. So let me put this down. So the demo here involves some network activity, and we were advised to record the demo and present it Mystery Science Theater style rather than trying to do live coding on this machine in this environment. So if it looks like I'm using a recording, I totally am. What you're going to notice as I drag a VLC window over to the big monitor. We'll get this going here.
You revealed my notes.
All right, here we go. So let me go up here. Double click that, and F11, I believe it was? Yep. Oh, awesome. OK, let's get this going. So let me click here, and cool. Awesome. So this is our card game template. It's running on 3 platforms simultaneously, just to show it. So I've got the web there in the middle, Mac OS in the top left, and I'm going to use iOS running on a simulator for the demonstration here. So let me go ahead and first then get those closed out. The extra ones, we can just focus on that. And I've got VS Code up here, and let me just head for main.dart. That's the starter file of this application. Let me scroll up a little bit. And yeah, actually, show of hands, who here has never seen Dart code before? Awesome. This is going to be fun. OK. So yeah, Dart is the language. It's used for a lot of things, but it's Flutter's language, the SDK, the tools, and app code. My favorite tweet about Dart I saw, somebody said Dart is like the Honda Civic of programming languages. You can just learn it in an afternoon. It is a C-style language, as you can see. Let me scroll down here, and I'm looking for run app. Little statement down there at the end. There we go. And that's where things start for Flutter. Widgets are the UI primitive for Flutter. Apps are represented as a hierarchy, a tree of widgets. And we joke that everything in Flutter is a widget. Everything that you need, you can build a widget for, including the entire app. So there's a widget class called myApp that represents the entire app that's filling that screen right there. And you call run app to tell the Flutter SDK, please take this widget and make it my application. Go run it. So let me scroll down and take a look at it here. And so this is that myApp widget class. Anybody familiar with the phrase lifting state up from reactive paradigms? Some folks, yeah. So this Flutter is a reactive SDK. We lift state up as well. You can see some things being held sort of at the top of that hierarchy, like settings controller, the palette, player's progress, and some things like that. And those can be widgets further down the tree, can look up to their ancestors to get references to those. If we scroll down a little bit more here, we can find some additional stuff. So I've got theming in here. I've got some route information there at the bottom. And I'm going to start messing with the theming to demonstrate hot reload. So I've got a font size here. Let me go into the settings screen, and I'm going to change sort of the state of the app. I'm just going to update the name to be a different name, make it player 2 here. Flutter's hot reload is a stateful hot reload, so you don't lose the state of your app when shipping new code over. So I'm going to change that to 40. When I hit save, you can see that button immediately updated to reflect the code change. And so what happened is there's a file system watcher on the file. It notices it was saved and changed. It's sent over to the running app where the just-in-time compiler in the Dart VM saw it, compiled it, kicked out the old version of that file, and then rebuilt and repainted the entire UI in less than a second. And that's how hot reload works. And so I could come in here and mess around with some other things. I could change the font, for example. I could tweak the size, change this to a lighter font. And I don't lose my state of navigation, and I don't lose the data that's present in memory. Those things hang out, and I can kind of tweak things and see how they work, which for somebody who is better at recognizing good design rather than producing it in the first place, that's very helpful for me. So, but let me show you how to put some widgets together. This is the player hand widget here. Let me just take a second. And so this is the widget. This is the actual play field. So the row of cards there in the middle, the 5 and the 1, that's this widget, that player widget. And so you can see there's a thing called a listenable value builder, or a listenable builder there that's holding on to a reference to the board state and has a builder method that gets called anytime it changes. It reacts to changes there. And it builds a few widgets. There's a wrap widget, which is laying out the cards in the right way. And there's a playing card widget that represents the individual cards. And let's say I wanted to jazz this up. I like a nice green felt pad on a desk. And so maybe I could put something under those cards that looks like that. So I can focus in here on the wrap, and I can give it a parent here. I'll introduce a new widget. I'll wrap this and give it a container as its parent. A container knows how to be a box, knows how to have a child. You can see the widgets are put together with parent-child relationships rather than inheriting from each other. They're composed together using composition. So I can put a container there. And let me give it a decoration to give a little configuration for how it should color itself. So I'll just say, hey, I'll give you a decoration. Please make your background color green. There we go. I can save that, so hot reload. Now I've got a box. Looks a little crowded. So I'll put another widget in here. I'll use the padding widget, which introduces padding. And then let's round the corners off. So I can go in here. This is just another property on box decoration. I can round those off using a border radius. Let's start with 5 there. So ever so slightly rounded. This is how a lot of my coding goes. And so there we go. We end up, and I can go in and mess with my app, still running. Oh, we do have audio. I thought we wouldn't have audio. Awesome. Yeah, that's programmer audio of somebody just breathing into a microphone to make the thing. I'm not sure how I just glitched out VLC, unfortunately. Did I lose a key? Okay, there we go. Sorry, Flutter didn't glitch there. That was the video. That's my fault. But you can see, you make a small change, you see what happens. You make a small change, you see what happens. And this is sort of the development loop for Flutter. You're never, in most cases, more than a couple lines away from the reality of what's actually running in your application. You can even, if you wanted to, completely break it. I'm going to intentionally throw an exception here, but it works with unintentional ones as well. You could just throw and hit save, and VS Code is going to stop me. But if I hit continue on this, I get the red screen of death telling me that my widget build method just broke. But I'm still running in the app. I can get rid of that. I hit save again, and I'm back where I was with the state the way that it was. So last thing I wanted to do here real quick is just use an implicit animation. Flutter widgets can animate the state from one build to another implicitly. So I'll change container here to an animated container, which can basically lerp between the properties that you give it in one build to the next. So I'll give it a duration of 1 for the how long those animations should run. And then I'll change the color here. So I've got, I have that listenable builder there that's rebuilding these widgets every time the player hand changes. So I'm going to, instead of hard coding the color there, I'll give it a green value. And then for opacity, okay, that's the wrong green. Like I said, not a designer. There we go. It's a little bit better. And then that 1 there is an opacity value from 0 to 1. And I can build that based on how many cards are left in the player's hand. So maybe I can just have it fade away into the sunset as the hand disappears. So I'm just taking that length of the hand, multiplying it by 0.1. Let me save that. And now, as these cards get drugged, again, programmer audio. You can see it animating away. Oh, I didn't know it was going to be that loud. Okay. But yeah. So let's talk about how the audio was done. Now that everybody's awake, let's go to the pub spec here. If you're familiar with like a package.json file or something like that, where you declare dependencies and kind of say, this is what I am, my name and stuff like that. This is the dependencies list for this app. And you can see one in there, audio players. I think it's line 27. That's the plugin through which the audio is being done. So Dart and Flutter have pub.dev as their package managing site. This is pub. And so this is like NPM, or where you'd go to get open source packages like the Go package directory. And you can find tens of thousands of open source packages here. Some are pure Dart, and some of them are Dart with native code built in. And Flutter includes a couple different ways to communicate from Dartland into native code, and you can ship a plugin that includes a Dart interface that provides a single layer of abstraction, a single API regardless of platform, and then includes per platform implementations that actually talk to the native APIs. Do we have anybody that's like a game engine coder in here? People that do Unity and stuff like that? Very common architectural pattern, right? Unity plugins, very similar way of doing it. And so there's packages for things. The Flutter favorites, by the way, are some packages that have gotten extra stamps of approval from the community and from the team at Google. But you can come in, you can pick out a package, you can see how many likes they have, see the README and the examples and stuff, and make a good decision. So I'm real quick going to check my clock. All right. So let me go into the next one. So that's the Flutter card template. The next one is this endless runner one, and this is Dash. Dash is the mascot for Dart and Flutter. And so the endless runner features Dash avoiding cacti and catching embers. It's just a very simple endless runner game. There we go. So you get skin. And I am still not the best at it, the fact that it's a very simple game. And so I thought maybe I could put some encouragement into the UI, put a component in here. And what we're looking at now is Flame. So this is still Flutter code, still Dart code, but the Flame package from this community plugin knows how to create a widget that understands a game loop and can track progress, track what's going on in a world, provide that ticker once every 60 seconds or 120 seconds. Y'all know what I mean. And can update the world and then repaint. And so it knows how to do that within a widget. The rest of this app, though, is still Flutter, just like it was before. I'm going to go create a new component for Flame that I can put into that demonstration. So I'm going to call it courage.dart. And this is going to be the moment, like in a cooking channel, where I just pull a turkey out of the oven that I started 3 hours ago. So this is a simple text component. It takes a position and a text renderer, starts off with an empty string. It has a countdown timer that gets updated. You can see the update method there. That's sort of that, hey, update your world, time has passed method. So it empties out the string after 5 seconds. And it's got a hard-coded string. I can call a method there just to say, put this text up on the screen. I'm going to start with a hard-coded one, and then for fun, we're going to use Generative AI to generate that on the fly. So let me take that component. I'm going to go into the game world itself. This is the endless runner. This is the game itself. This is the onload method. And I'm just going to instantiate and configure that component and add it into the viewport so it can be viewed. Let me slow down just a little bit. I'm making a text renderer here for yellow text, and I'm copying the one used for the score. So you can see that the one just up there is for the score. I'm copying it. I'm just going to change the color to be yellow text. I'll call it yellow text renderer there. Let me scroll down. And having made that, I can now instantiate an instance of the component that you just saw, that one that's got a hard-coded string in there. And I'll give it a position on screen, just a simple vector. I'll put it right next to the score up at the top of the screen. And I'll hand it that yellow text renderer. There we go. Now I'm going to add it to the camera's viewport, just like is being done with the score. There we go. And then the last thing I need to do, you can see this is another listener pattern here. This is a little method that's watching the score, and it gets called whenever the score changes. And so it's already being used to update the text for the score. I'm going to piggyback on that. And whenever the score comes back and it equals 1, so whenever Dash picks up her first ember, I'll show courage and encourage myself to get another one. So I'm going to call that show courage method. Let me save this and go start the game up. So I'll click there. And so it looks the same right now because I haven't triggered that method, but when the score goes to 1, that's my text component there that I just added to the camera. And this should drop out after 5 seconds. So there we go. I have been messing around with generative AI recently. Anybody else trying to work this into their daily? I had a feeling. So this is Google's AI Studio with the Gemini model. I was just playing around with some prompts. I came up with this. Imagine that you're the protagonist of a game and you're also a spherical blue bird. What would you say to celebrate completing a level? And so I'd like to get this and use this to generate that text. So you can see I did a little trial and error prompt engineering here. But I'm going to grab this prompt. There we go. I'm just going to paste this into my component as a simple string. This is just a string constant. Dart has multi-line strings, just like a lot of languages, so I can pop that in there. Then I'm going to come down here, and I'm going to update this. So that's my hard-coded string. I'm going to make a method to generate a string instead, because that's more interesting. So I'll do fetch courage. And this is an async method that returns a future. I say returns a future there. It's an asynchronous method because it's going to make a network call. So I'm making fetch courage there. And then I'm just going to replace the hard-coded version there with that. So now I've got a method here that's just going to fetch a string from Gemini, and I still have my show courage that's going to display it to the user. But I've run into a problem. I don't have the plugin, or I don't have the package in. Fortunately, I can grab this one. Just like with the audio players package, or the audio players plugin from pub.dev, this is the package that you can find for Google's Generative AI SDK, and this is the most recent version. So I popped that into my pub spec. I can do a pub get just to download it. And because this is pure Dart, this doesn't have any native code in it. It's a pure Dart plugin. It works on all the platforms Flutter supports, and I can even hot reload it into my app. So I'm still not doing a full rebuild of the app. I still haven't lost my state from where I am. So now I'm going to instantiate a model here. Well, I say that, a connection to a model. Use Gemini Pro, and I'm going to give it an API key. I have put that in another file that I'm not showing. Y'all look very trustworthy, but it just seemed like a good idea. So that's my API key. Here we go. And so that gives me, represents my connection to a model. Now I'm going to create some safety settings because that's just a good practice. So we can do that. I'll do, for the various harm categories, we have harassment. I'm going to use medium here, just a good basic one. I'm just going to copy and paste that 4 times to cover the other categories. So I've got dangerous content, hate speech, and other things that I would not want in the game. And having done that, so now I've got to represent an instantiated model. I'm ready to go ahead and make a call to it. So I'm going to say generate content. Please use my prompt, which again is that constant that was at the top of the file that I worked out in AI Studio. I give it those safety settings, and then I can take the text of the response and return it out of this function. And one quick, go away there. One quick note there. You see I'm doing response.text, and then I'm using a double question mark. That's just in case the text comes back as null for some reason. Dart is a null-safe language. It's a strongly typed, soundly typed language, and it does have null safety by default since version 3.0. So I need to return something other than a null value since my function definition expects it. So I'm going to catch, if I have an exception from the SDK, I'll return an empty string for simplicity. And there I go. So now I can go back in the game, start over, and there's Dash. There we go, a slight delay. And there's my text, and that's generated on the fly from the Gemini model using the Generative AI SDK for Dart. And that's my woohoo moment. That template that you just saw, again, this is free and open source. You can download it. Our samples, our docs, the website that has the docs, the tools, everything is open source all the way down to the GPU. This runs on all the platforms Flutter supports, including Google Play for Games, which you may have heard some stuff about here at GDC. And it's also surrounded by, there we go. Also surrounded by an ecosystem of stuff both from Google, companies around the world, and a community worldwide of developers. So Google Mobile Ads, in-app purchases, both have plugins that are fully supported. We have leaderboards and badges and auth and crash reporting from Firebase, which has support for Flutter just like its other platforms, and can offer things like multiplayer support as well. If you'd like to learn more, head to flutter.dev/games and docs.flutter.devs, which is our docs site. Again, I had a recording of the live coding session. If you'd like to see the live improv version, I'd love to do it for you in the hallway. So grab me, and I think we're done.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.